lot of deals in the door because they said yes to everything, but their reputation was in the toilet. And I ended up with less business initially, but it's the long game. And what ended up happening over time is once realtors understand that you're reliable and that they can trust you and that what you say isn't, and you're not just trying to be difficult, you actually care and are trying to close an escrow successfully. It's something that has to be proven over time with transaction volume with various realtors in your market. But once you hit a certain trajectory, it's like,
Unfortunately, do I lose business because of that sometimes? Yeah. In fact, I just lost one a couple weeks ago. And, you're not able to always get a buyer or a realtor to understand everything going on in the background of what you're doing.
yeah,
Or sometimes it's just a case of dumb luck where you did a lot of the legwork up front and you've communicated everything to the client, and now they're shopping you, and they take all that information to the other lender and lay it all out there for them that you took a week to figure out. And now all of a sudden this other lender is able to put it together quicker. And they're like, oh, well, this lender's moving faster. Yeah, that's because you just took all my work that I did and brought it to them, right?
All right, everybody, we are back. I'm your host, as always, Jason Thibodeau, and I'm going to call him my co-host, Jason Thomas. We work together, JMJ Financial, Huntington Beach branch. Welcome back to the Mortgage Lounge. So today we're going to talk about what does it look like to be a good loan officer, aka not a marginal one. I could have used a more colorful word, but we're going to keep it PC for YouTube. Honestly, this is a long overdue talk, I would say, right? We've been talking about doing this for a while.
Yeah, for a while. Yeah.
And, being a loan officer in today's marketplace, interest rates are up, makes it what people forget about with high interest rates is it's harder to qualify for a loan, right? There's just pressure. Everything when it comes to you homeowners out there, realtors, maybe you know this, maybe you don't. The foundation of what makes up qualifying for a loan, the number one foundation is your ability to
repay.
Yes. Nice work.
Passed that one.
Yeah, a lot of people think, my credit score is 800 and I've got money in the bank. Why do you need this? Why do you need that? Right? If I had $1 for every time I heard that, I wouldn't be doing loans anymore. And I really don't want to be doing loans anymore. But the point is income is the number one thing on paper that you need to qualify. Now, there are other products, but we're going to get into as a loan officer. So for you loan officers out there listening, we're going to get into best practices about what does it look like at the front end when you first talk to a potential home buyer to get them properly pre-approved. And I think realtors are also very confused on this topic too. Like, what does pre-approval actually mean? Let's start with the basics. What's a pre-approval, Jay?
I mean, a pre-approval means you've submitted an application, you've had a mortgage lender run your credit and verify some documentation, and, based on that submission, hey, it looks like you're pre-approved for this amount pending underwriting, essentially.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So you said the key word there was verification. And they've submitted not just an application. It's not just a conversation. Yes, they've run a credit report, but I think the meat and potatoes of a pre-approval are your supporting documents, which include three main categories.
Income, assets,
credit.
And credit, yeah.
Yeah. I think where people get into hot water, because one thing we want to remember is when you're buying a home, you're in a legal contract, a real estate contract. Within that real estate contract, you've got contingency for financing that needs to be removed, right? Which removes the protection of your deposit up front. The moment you remove that, you say bye-bye to your money. There's moving trucks involved, and it's a big deal for just about everyone doing it. So what does that mean? Very, very high stakes. And if you care as a loan officer, you're going to do a very thorough job, because if you know you don't, or if you didn't, you're setting your potential borrower and the realtor representing them up for complete catastrophe and failure. And for empaths and deep feelers like us, that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, I found out very early on in my loan career that it just doesn't work for me to just hope and pray and submit the loan with hardly anything, not and having a bunch of unknowns.
Yeah.
Because aside from just the stress level for me, it also puts stress on literally everybody else in the process, right? And the buyer's going to have potentially a nightmare experience, even if the loan does close.
Yeah.
Even if they get their home, it's just going to be the worst experience ever, full of stress and anxiety. Realtors are, ranting and raving. Our lending team is stressed out. Everybody's stressed out, right? Because, a few extra steps weren't taken up front and, to verify that, this is going to work.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It sounds cliche, but an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. That's all this is. And I think what's common in our industry is we want to say yes. We want to please people. We want to be liked. And so when you're talking to a borrower who potentially at first might seemingly have a simple situation, and then because you're perceiving the situation on the surface from a conversation to be simple, and they're in a rush to get a pre-approval done because they need to make an offer on a property, and understandably, you want to get their hat in the ring so they can potentially get the house they want. Well, either corners are cut or pre-approval doesn't happen at all. And you just hope and pray, like you said earlier, that when you do eventually get the documents, especially if the offer gets accepted, that they actually do qualify. Now, I'm guilty of this. I do want to say that I'm not perfect. I miss things. I've made mistakes at earlier stages of my career. I've done what I just described and had what was a seemingly simple situation on the phone call with an offer inevitably accepted. And then you start getting the documents and then you say, oh, poop. Try not to cuss. And then that flood of anxiety flows through your body because you know that you set people up for failure. And then our reputation is everything and decides whether or not we get the referral business from that home buyer or continued referral business from the realtor that connected us with that buyer. And it really decides the trajectory of our career ultimately. Not to mention the fact that what you said, Jay, is it's a miserable escrow experience. Everyone's in panic.
Yeah, I mean, I think every loan officer has experienced that pitting feeling in their stomach when underwriting comes back and says, hey, we have an issue here for something that maybe was overlooked. Maybe it just came up, whatever the case is, right? And then the anxiety sets in and the panic sets in and the intense pull to try to solve it immediately sets in and sound the alarm and everything, right? And everything just kind of starts unraveling into chaos. And that's what we're trying to avoid as much as possible, right?
So how do you handle that though? Because we're in a world of salespeople that are willing to do and say what they need to earn business. Our competitors, I've noticed over the years. And that's not how we operate because we're trying to make sure we're not setting our clients up for failure. So it can potentially, a borrower can experience us as like, well, why are you asking for this? And the other lender I'm talking to isn't. How do you respond to that?
Yeah, I mean, I respond with, kind of what we're talking about is, hey, I'm vetting everything up front for you so that there's no surprises during escrow,
Right.
to make sure that going into you offering that your pre-approval is as solid as possible. If another lender you feel like they're not asking for as much, or you think they're moving quicker through the pre-approval process, it's because they're just doing the absolute bare minimum and they're planning on verifying all of this stuff during escrow, which may or may not necessarily be a good thing. That may just create more stress or, worst case, it may ultimately blow the deal and you have to cancel, right? But if we were able to pull numbers on loan officers who do the bare minimum at the pre-approval stage, or they're essentially doing like a verbal pre-qualification, more or less, I promise you they have a much higher percentage of loans canceling,
Yeah.
than if you take the couple extra steps, like you said, an ounce of prevention. I've always found that if there looks like there might be a small little issue or thing that you want to verify, and you decide to just kick the can down the road and say, I'll just deal with that later.
It usually comes
It's
back
so
to haunt
much.
you.
It not only does it come back to haunt you, but it's so much more magnified later in the game
Yeah.
than it is to just deal with it right up front.
Well, it's like anything else in life. Neglecting a problem that you know is there and you decide not to address it until it's either too late or it's gone on for way too long. You said it great. It magnifies the problem. It amplifies the problem. It increases the intensity of suffering and pain for everyone involved. And this is the hard part of our industry, though, as salespeople, because we are surrounded by folks who don't do it this way, and we lose business because of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's hard because at the end of the day, we're trying to make money to feed our family and provide a lifestyle for our kids and our wife that we have envisioned. Is different for everyone, and it's tough. Like I will tell you, before I was doing the running the branch and studio and all this other stuff, when I was just 10 years ago, when I was just a one-man show loan officer, my reputation was complicated in the sense that if you asked a realtor in my marketplace, they'd say, oh, well, Jason is very cautious
Or thorough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some people would look at that as a negative because I had a lot of competitors in my marketplace that would throw anything against the wall and hope it sticked. But every time you asked a realtor in my marketplace about that loan officer, their spine would shiver. They'd want to be like, don't ever work with him, right? And it's like, okay, cool. They got a lot of deals in the door because they said yes to everything, but their reputation was in the toilet. And I just wasn't willing to do that. But ultimately, I ended up with less business initially, but it's the long game. And what ended up happening over time is once realtors understand that you're reliable and that they can trust you and that what you say isn't bullshit and you're not just trying to be difficult, you actually care and are trying to close an escrow successfully, it's something that has to be proven over time with transaction volume with various realtors in your market. But once you hit a certain trajectory, it's like, it's a longer game. It's not a get rich quick scheme, but the roots are deeper and wider, and your career blossoms a lot more beautifully than the person who hit the ground running, saying yes to everything that ended up destroying their reputation. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, I've experienced the same thing as well because, like you, I made a decision a long time ago to try to cover all of my bases up front if I can, because I don't want any surprises for the client.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy the stress like I already talked about. Unfortunately, do I lose business because of that sometimes? Yeah. In fact, I just lost one a couple weeks ago. And, you're not able to always get a buyer or a realtor to understand the, everything going on in the background of what you're doing.
Yeah.
Or sometimes it's just a case of dumb luck where you did a lot of the legwork up front and you've communicated everything to the client, and now they're shopping you and they take all that information to the other lender and lay it all out there for them that you took a week to figure out.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden this other lender is able to put it together quicker. And they're like, oh, well, this lender's moving faster. Yeah, that's because you just took all my work that I did and brought it to them, right? Unfortunately, that happens.
It's a dog-eat-dog world out there, folks.
And that or a combination of just the other lenders saying, yeah, this won't be any problem at all, as opposed to me sitting there explaining, like, here's what we need to do and what we need to verify. And if for whatever reason it comes back differently, then we're looking at this, and just kind of laying it all out there for them. Unfortunately, it doesn't always work, but I would say it works the majority of the time, or the majority of the time you have a client that is going out of their way to express what a positive experience they had buying a home because of how you handled things and, how you stayed calm or steady or whatever, and just made it a lot less stressful. So on the positive side of that, we're clear to close on one of my files as of today. And these folks are not necessarily first-time home buyers. They had bought a condo years ago. Miserable experience.
Mm.
And on this experience, they're sharing with their insurance agent uh, how great. I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but just how great I've been throughout the process, because I've made, like, anytime there was any challenge during underwriting, the way that I communicated it was in a non-stressful way and wasn't hitting the panic button. It was just, hey guys, this is what we're dealing with. This is my solution for you. And then we move on from it, right? Instead of making it seem like it's the end of the world,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
So
you're
more
not-
often than not, it's going to help, like you said, for the long game. It's just, it's not always going to be perfect, and those times are frustrating, but you can't look at that and think, oh, well, maybe I should start doing what other lenders are doing either, because that just opens up a whole slew of other issues that you're going to deal with.
Yeah. Well, you want to be able to sleep at night too.
Yeah, that's
So
a big one.
So we've established at the upfront and pre-approval stage, collecting income assets, credit, actually doing the work to verify, actually asking the questions on the things that are potentially red flags, and taking your medicine upfront so that you are healthy enough to close escrow successfully down the road. But again, even within the escrow period that you just alluded to, things come up,
Yep.
right? And then facing that with the borrower in a way that is a solution oriented but delivered in a calming manner and not um, an emotional or unhelpful manner is a big deal too. It's not just at the upfront, it's also how you handle challenges within an escrow period, because loans are hard on a good day and things happen, and plenty of loan officers don't respond to stress very well, right? They hide, they duck and cover. If they made a mistake, they're hard to get a call back. They're defensive. Their ego comes out. Those are not helpful traits, right? And that's, I think, one of your biggest clients, the Whipple Group. Shout out to the Whipple Group.
Mhm.
Recognized that in you when you were dealing with a really rough situation. Nothing that we created, but SB 326 condo stuff, sellers at the mercy of this closing so they can buy their next home, right? She was in tears at a certain point. Do you mind sharing a little bit about that? I think it's a good way to highlight what we're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the SB 326 thing, I mean, I know we've done videos on that as well, but unfortunately, that's something that isn't always known for one reason or another until you're
The
a couple
audience, what's
weeks.
SB 326?
Balcony inspections for condos. Yeah, thank you. um, and oftentimes we're not getting the report back from the HOA for a couple weeks into escrow, or we don't have all the HOA documents. And that's just a recurring theme with dealing with associations, HOAs. And then it's trying to figure out what to do after that, right? This kind of leads into another good example too of if you're competing with other loan officers who are telling a listing agent, yeah, 10-day loan contingency on a condo is no problem, right?
Oh, we got to talk about that.
So
Appropriate expectations.
yeah,
Yes.
but it's just, you're just not going to know everything on condos for potentially a couple weeks or more.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to leave any stone unturned on that transaction, because I knew the stakes. I knew that the seller was, they had a home that they were under contract for, and it was dependent on them being able to sell. So it was more than just me trying to help out my buyers to close. And we were able to find a solution that that worked for everybody. We were able to close. And yeah, I probably talked to the seller actually more than I talked to my buyers throughout that transaction, because they were involved trying to do whatever they could with the HOA. And actually walked away from that transaction with the sellers telling me, we want to use you in the future.
Well,
right. So,
and not just the sellers, the listing agent
and the listing agent,
giant team in Long Beach.
Yeah. Yep.
And that is the power of showing up powerfully, right? In the right way.
Yeah.
At no moment in that transaction did you give up. In no moment did you lose your fortitude, your emotions, right? And you remain the calming force and accessible and communicative and professional. And what do you know? Everyone goes, holy shit, right? Who is this guy? And it changes the trajectory of your career. So I think a lot of people don't understand like the get rich quick approach of saying yes to everything and over promising and under delivering, the classic mediocrity of our industry. It is one way to do it, but there's a lot more suffering, reputation tarnishment, and just not the way to do it, in my opinion. Whereas, like, this is an example of how showing up that way can really change the course of your career in a significant way. Long and the short of it, realtors, please, please, please. There's a million loan officers out there. The barrier to entry is way down here, right? Just because they're a friend of a friend or whatever. Relationship matters, integrity matters, reputation matters. Work with people that actually care and have integrity. That's my message to you. And then buyers, anybody listening to this needs to do the same. Any parting remarks, Jay?
No, I mean, I echo all of that as well. I mean, honestly, like taking a couple extra steps up front is going to be the main thing that I think is most important for loan officers, is just try to slow yourself down a little bit. Don't get caught up in the moment of trying to react to everything all the time. Whether that's got to get this offer out right this second, being able to be confident enough in yourself to tell a realtor, I need an extra day before we submit this offer, or whatever it is. If you're just unsure, don't just bend to whatever's going on.
Yeah.
Right. And yeah, you might lose a deal or two here and there, but I promise you're going to gain a lot more trust from realtors, a lot more confidence from realtors, and confidence in yourself. And the whole experience is just going to be a lot more positive.
Well said, Jay.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. If you did like what you heard today, please like and subscribe. Yeah, I remembered to say it. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.